The year was 1963, and the British Broadcasting Corporation, otherwise known as the BBC, had a big problem. See, every Saturday evening began with Grandstand, the British precursor to, and eventually the contemporary of, ESPN. And then it ended with Jukebox Jury, a show where celebrity guests came on to judge the popular songs of the day. And in the nearly hour-long slot between those two programs, there was absolutely nothing new. The BBC elected to play old children's shows to appeal to the younger demographic, but it was clear this was a band-aid solution. They needed a new program, and fast. Enter Sidney Newman. Fresh off his stint at ABC Studios and an avid science fiction fan, he had a relatively novel pitch for a series that would quite handily fit the time slot.
So, good-looking guy, good-looking gal, a kid who gets herself into all kinds of trouble, plus an older man, quirky, I'll come back to him. They travel about space and time, getting into scrapes. We want history, too, proper history. The kids at home should learn something.
And what about the other man, the quirky character?
He's a doctor.
A doctor?
Mm-hmm. He should be a doctor, don't you think? Makes him an authority figure. So it kind of reassuring.
It sold. And on November 23rd, 1963, Doctor Who officially began. The premiere, An Unearthly Child, was a modest success, but the series quickly found its niche when it introduced the Doctor's arch nemesis, the Daleks.
Exterminate all humans! Exterminate! Annihilate! Destroy! Daleks conquer!
From there, the program only grew more popular over the course of the next 3 years, at the end of which lead actor William Hartnell's health had severely declined. Producers were faced with the decision of either canceling the program or finding a creative workaround.
Time Lords have this little trick, sort of a way of cheating death. Unlike humans, when Time Lords die, they grow a new body. They're still the same person on the inside, but the way they look and behave can be very different.
The practice of recasting the lead actor every so often provided a means for the show to keep going. And keep going it did for close to 26 years until...
The word on the grapevine was no, the show wasn't being recommissioned for the following year, or indeed for the foreseeable future.
We all know why the series ended. The series ended because the BBC at the time was entirely run by people who hated science fiction.
In terms of the ambitious would-be producers who filled the script editing department, it was looked at as something that would be a career killer. It wasn't seen as something that the department was proud of. It was, I think if they could have farmed it off to the children's department, they'd all be very happy.
We had really decided that this wasn't the programme that it had been, and that if it was ever to have any life again in the future, it needed a long rest.
And so, the era of televised Doctor Who was dead. Prospects of a film adaptation and a full-scale reboot were tossed around, but nothing materialized, bar a 1996 TV movie on Fox, which failed to get picked up for a full series.
Had there been somebody around who was absolutely passionate about the programme, a producer, a writer, who had got a vision of that programme that would actually bring it into a new sort of life, a new world, because every programme needs reinventing every so often. It could have been an option to actually push that forward at that stage.
Acclaimed writer Russell T Davies had successfully lobbied to revive the series. He would be showrunner and head writer for the foreseeable future, and, most surprisingly, he would not be doing away with the 26 years of continuity that came before.
Like the trailers on telly, they're gone with the theme tune, there's the noise of the TARDIS, there's shots of the Daleks, it's all those icons really. You'd be stupid to clear out the icons. Or you might as well sit down and invent a brand new show.
Recently, the habit of reviving old properties for a second go-around has become a bit of a common practice, both in the television and film landscapes, and the results mix from astounding to absolutely dreadful. So what made Doctor Who work?
I mean, media as a whole was going darker and becoming more ready to face its own darkness. So I think the audiences were ready to tackle more serious topics. But yeah, I definitely think it couldn't have worked like 10 or 15 years earlier.
Russell himself was no stranger to thought-provoking television, having written 2003's The Second Coming, starring Christopher Eccleston, which explored man's relationship to religion and the notion of whether we deserve salvation.
You're running around science like kids with guns, creating a new world while the world you've got is stinking. Go on, hands up. Hands up anyone who thinks you've got it right.
Before he then went on to write Years and Years post-Doctor Who, a story cautioning against modern-day fascism in Great Britain.
It's said that Russia have been funding the Four-Star Party.
Oh, fake news, every time.
Reports of sexual harassment within Four-Star headquarters.
Pack of lies.
It's heavily implied that the voting was rigged.
You are the enemy of the people.
Mrs. Rook, there are questions about your income tax return.
This is why journalism is dying.
These works were so well received, in my opinion, for two reasons. Firstly, Russell often has personal experience with the show's subject matter, as was the case with It's a Sin, a chronicle from the AIDS epidemic from the 1980s to the 1990s.
We stand on the shoulders of the activists and the researchers and the families, the people with HIV, the people with AIDS, the people we lost, the people we loved, the people who learnt, the people living now in this situation. It is an immense privilege to be the ones briefly representing them.
Secondly, his stories contain incredibly memorable characters. Note, not likable characters. Quote, if a character's actions are believable, then that character's actions will work. Notions of likable or not likable become irrelevant. My job as a writer is not to worry on an invisible half of a consensus wondering about sheer, bloody, boring niceness. Allow the bastards to be lovely, allow the heroes to be weak, and they'll come alive. Nowhere is this sentiment clearer, in my opinion, than the episode Dalek, which is not only a fantastic 45 minutes of science fiction television on its own, but a very neat microcosm of why the revival series worked in the first place. The story explores themes of survivor's guilt.
Why don't we survive?
I don't know.
Revenge.
I know what you deserve. Exterminate.
And exploitation.
Do you know what we found? The cure for the common cold. Kept it strictly within the laboratory, of course. No need to get people excited. Why sell one cure when I can sell 1,000 palliatives?
But do so in a way that an argument about why these things are bad comes through either explicitly.
I wanted to touch the stars! You just want to drag the stars down and stick them underground underneath tons of sand and dirt and label them. You're about as far from the stars as you can get.
Or implicitly.
That thing killed hundreds of people.
It's not the one pointing the gun at me.
Moving on to character. Compare how the Doctor interacts with an alien he's meeting for the first time.
Yes, gifts. I give you in return air from my lungs.
To how he interacts with the last surviving Dalek.
Why don't you finish the job and make the Daleks extinct? Rid the universe of your filth. Why don't you just die?
This dichotomy is what allows the Doctor to be a fascinating character. He's capable of incredible kindness and incredible malice, but it's still important for both the writer and the character that he finds a balance between both.
You see, like, DC films that came out that were, like, super dark. I think they tried to do what Marvel was doing, but they just didn't have that knack for, like, comedy, which Doctor Who very much does.
Adam was saying that all his life he wanted to see the stars.
Tell him to go and stand outside, then.
But that balance doesn't come just from writing the Doctor well. Those who surround him are equally important. Quote, Doctor Who is designed to incorporate likable characters because so much else is going on. You're creating monsters, plots, world, environments, so even fairly complicated characters like Rose are sketches, in a sense, to be filled by good acting. Rose, here, refers to the first companion of Russell's era, Rose Tyler, a 19-year-old shopgirl from London who lives with her mother.
I think Russell introduced Rose Tyler as a way to, like, engage younger audiences, but also working class and common people. And I think that really allowed a lot more people to engage with the stories because there was someone there representing them, thinking how they think. She brought him down from that high horse a lot of the time, and that dynamic really spiced things up.
It couldn't kill Van Staten. It couldn't kill me. It's changing. What about you, Doctor? What the hell are you changing into?
Finally, the revival's greatest strength. striking a balance between respecting the past while introducing innovation. In an interview with Sean Lyons on Outpost Gallifrey, writer Robert Shearman expressed that he wanted to take all those things people find funny about the Daleks and turn them into something people would find memorable. The Dalek looks like it could be toppled by a strong push.
The last guy that touched it burst into flames.
It doesn't have access to its gun.
What you gonna do? Sucker me to death?
It can't climb the stairs.
I think definitely consider your audience, first of all. Consider who you're trying to market to. Are you trying to market for the people who watched it in the past, or do you want to bring entirely new people in? Second, I think, is subject matter. I mean, it's sci-fi, so you're always going to want to make these like political allegories in places. I think the best sci-fi does like bring out what is wrong with society and talks about issues in a way that is like, you know, perfectly parallel. The third thing is hold for Decatur. Yeah, I think the third thing is get the right actors. You can have great writing, you can have terrible writing. The success will hinge on what the actors can bring to the table, you know?
Yeah. And how well did it work? Well, he's coming back for the 60th anniversary. I suppose that says something.